There it is. Evening, everybody. 21. I saw somebody else pop in, but I missed it. I missed your name. So if you could just tell me, hey, let me know who's out there. Hey, girl. I am Anita of thatanitalive.com, and I share my story of living unashamed of your secret story to help others live unashamed of their secret stories and aspire to higher heights, to step out in their destined greatness. Tonight, I want to talk about living unashamed, which is not allowing blocks and barriers, anything, not even yourself, to stand in your way based on your secret story of you going after your goals or going after, like I said, your destined greatness. Tonight, I want to talk about family is not everything. There are some people out there that believe, that teach, that will proclaim to you that family is everything. Well, tonight, family is not everything. It is based on personal experience. And for people to take it and generalize it over everybody, that's a very negative thing. It's a very hurtful thing. Because then for those people whom do not have family as a platform or support, it makes them feel ostracized. For instance, in a class that I was taking last year, our professor gave us as an assignment, it was a public speaking class, and we had to give a speech, Mother's Day Sunday, about our mothers. And there were two women in the class that had significant difficulty, spoke very well, and all of our other assignments were A students. But this particular Sunday, they stood up and had a very difficult time trying to put together a speech. Hi, is that naturally imperfect? Trying to put together a speech about their moms, about something good about their mothers, because they had had such tumultuous relationships with their mothers. And somebody else in the class spoke up and said, well, family is everything, so if you don't have family. And our professor actually had to almost pull out a fire extinguisher to put out, hey, girl, how you doing? Chili Bell, to stop the arguing in class and going back and forth. So I just wanted to hop onto a scope real quick and talk about family is not everything. The top 3 myths that people say about family. Number 1, if you don't have family, then you ain't got nothing. That's not true. For those that have good family relationships, like I said, it's wonderful. But for those of us that did not have that experience, you can't try and ostracize us for not having your life experience. You can't try and make us live under your umbrella of what you define as family. And those people cannot be so narrow-minded as to try and force it down everybody else's throat to say, if you don't have family, you don't have nothing. Because those are the same people that are in church every time the door cracks. So they're forgetting that God provides. They're forgetting that there's a verse in the Bible that says, when my mother and my father forsake me, the Lord will hold me close. They're forgetting that he will be there for you. So for those of you all that have, if you haven't heard any of my story, if you haven't read any of my blog at thatanitalive.com, in my story, on my blog post, I share about the sibling abuse that I suffered. Now, when I say sibling abuse, a lot of people like to chuckle because they play it off or they shrug it off. Hi, Maya. As just sibling rivalry. You know, 2 kids just having a spat over a toy. However, sibling abuse is real. Sibling abuse is something that is starting to get more light in the social justice world. My specific experience. Thanks for the hearts. Peter John, how you doing? Come on in. My specific experience, my sibling happened to be 9 years older than me, male, and probably 1.5 feet taller than me, 150 pounds heavier than me. And most of the attacks were at night. I'd either be watching television or I'd be asleep. And he would just begin beating on me. The worst part was when you try and tell it to a parent and that parent pretends that it doesn't exist or pretends that you're making something out of nothing. So when people tell you you ain't got family, you ain't got nothing, they are very, very wrong. Because a lot of folks get to higher places in life, or they reach their goals in life because, thank you very much. Oh, God bless you. Thank you. God bless you too. Because of family, family being supportive, family helping them through tough times. Mine has been, for the most part, not because of family, but despite family. Because while that was going on with my sibling, between the ages of 0 and 15, my father tried to set the house on fire 3 times with his family asleep in the house. The first time I was a toddler. The second time I caught him. And the experience of recognizing the scent, going outside and seeing your biological parent standing in the backyard, lighting newspaper to try and light the house, is an unspeakable experience in itself. But it's something that I had to go through, get over, and move on. Because the one thing that I knew was that I couldn't stay stuck where I was. But getting to a point where I wanted more, because being the only girl of 5 and the youngest, the expectation for me was that I was not going to leave home. Hi, Marbell. The expectation for me was that I was just going to get a college degree and move 5-10 miles from my mother and be at her house every Sunday. I don't know how they missed it. My grandmother didn't miss it. But I've known ever since I was a very, very small child that I was not staying there. By no means was I going to stay there. So myth number 1 that we were discussing, if you don't have family, you don't have nothing. That is simply not true, because God provides. And there are so many of us that didn't have family that have obtained not just the goals that we dreamed of as teenagers, but a whole lot more. Myth number 2, family will always be there for you. Simply not true in every case. These myths are something that I'm giving out because they cannot be generalized over to everybody. Yes, big myth. If you are a person that had a great family life, wonderful. But you can't try and force that down somebody else's throat to say, well, family is family. Family will not always be there for you. For instance, when I called home and said, I'm going to grad school, that I wasn't just going to graduate from undergrad and return back to my mother's house, they had a cow. They told me I wasn't smart enough. They told me I couldn't do it. They told me I'd never graduate. All wrong. Because not only did I get 1 master's degree, I got 2. Same thing. Hi, Bishop. Same thing when I called and I said, I'm going to buy a house. The reaction is, you can't buy a house. You're not married. You need a man to buy a house. No, this is 2002 and I can't buy a house. So here we are again, where I didn't just buy 1 house. I bought 2 houses since then. So it's not a true generalization. Family will not always be there for you. Some family try to trip you up and cause you to fail, so that you have to fall back into where they think you should be anyway. Because hear me, they've already written your story and they want you to live according to what they think is true. They'll be the first to cut you, yes ma'am, and cut you deep because they're the closest to you. Yes, yes, yes. For instance, I was an undergrad, and growing up in that situation, I always had to fight for self-image and self-esteem. And I got a job. My history professor recommended me for a job as a park ranger. Got the job, performs well on the job. My superintendent came to me and said, a neighboring park is having an anniversary and they need extra rangers. Would you be interested in working the overtime? College student, heck yeah, I'm interested in work. So not only did I get the company car and the company gas card, they paid hotel, they paid per diem, they paid night differential, and they paid overtime. Any parent, family, right, would be proud of a person that had obtained that and successfully performed. to be recommended to work someplace else. No, not my family. While I was away, earning all of that overtime and night differential and per diem, my family called not my boss's boss, and cussed him out. Cussed him out and wore him out over the telephone. Quote unquote, he had no business to send me up there. Now, when I shared that I had this opportunity, there wasn't any sign of disdain or upset in my voice so that I didn't want to go. And he didn't send me up there. I accepted the opportunity. It was a boost to my self-esteem. One, somebody trusted me. Two, they trusted me not only to go with the company car and the company credit card, but they trusted me to represent the park that I worked for. Because you know how bosses like to compete. Daphne, hey Daphne, is that pronounced correctly, Daphne Brown? You know how bosses like to compete with their various, I have a group of park rangers, or I have somebody that tells better stories than you all tell. Just elated that I was going. I didn't even have to pay for food while I was up there. Because like I said, it was a big anniversary celebration. So there was food everywhere all day long. Point. The myth is, this is number 2, family will always be there for you. That is a big, big myth. Like you said, family will be the first one to cut you down. 2, family will cut you and cut you deep because they're the closest to you. How you doing tonight? I'm talking about family is not everything. Going through the top 3 myths. Going through the top 3 myths. And just saying to people that have had great family experiences that they can't stuff it down our throat or try to make us live under their umbrella of their great experience. They can't be so narrow-minded as to think that every woman or man that can produce a child is a responsible parent. They can't think that. Not watching the news and reading the newspaper today, they can't think that. On to number 3. Number 3 is nobody will treat you as good as family. Again, that's a myth. There's another one that is not true. I know other folks that have been treated very well by people they are not biologically related to. I myself have been taken into, because of my family experience. After my freshman year, I never went back home as far as summer vacation, Christmas, Thanksgiving. I just stopped going and I always found someplace else to go. And I've had families take me in and treat me just as one of their children. Sometimes they would treat me better because I was more responsible. So the whole thing about family being your bird nest or your nest egg, where you will be nurtured and supported and pushed to become the best that you can be, is simply not true in all cases. Everybody doesn't have that experience. So when they say nobody, but thanks for the hearts too. When they say nobody will treat you like family, that's not true. It is a big, big myth. And to any of my young sisters out there that may catch this video or watching this scope right now, any of my replay viewers that may catch this scope, if you are currently in any situation where you feel as if it's a bad family situation, whether it's abusive or you feel as if you're being emotionally manipulated, tell somebody. Tell your school counselor, tell your teacher, tell somebody until somebody listens and the behavior changes. If you're older, say you're in college and you're in between trying to figure out, well, what do I choose? Because that's family, so I always got to go. I always got to be with family. Know that you are going to come to a point in your life where God is going to have you choose him or family, because you're going to have to decide what's healthy for you. And you're going to have to decide what's best for you and how do you stay on track to live a Christian life and get into the gate, the narrow gate of heaven, but still do your best down here on earth. Because family can really be a negative influence on you and pull you into some situations that you know are not good for you. So do not think, do not fall under the umbrella, do not fall under the influence that you have to listen to family, if you know in your heart that your dream is different, you know in your heart that you want something different, then you have to be true to you. You have to step out in your adulthood and decide whom you are going to be in your life. You are not responsible for any human being that you did not produce. So for the third myth that we discussed when we said nobody will treat you as good as family, big myth that is simply not true. Just to recap, talking about the top 3 myths about family, and that family is really not everything. Number 1 was if you don't have family, like they said, if you don't have family, then you don't have nothing. Not true. That is not true. A big myth. God will provide. Number 2, when they say family will always be there for you, you will find that there will be people that come into your life that will be there when family is not. Because sometimes family only supports you or go along when you're doing what they want you to do or when you're being whom they want you to be. But as you begin to grow and mature and come into your own, then you're not going to respond the same way. Here's another example, and this one happened quite recently. That same individual, that sibling that I was referring to, we don't live anywhere near each other. We're hours, miles from each other. Why will he sit outside my house? Now, he knows if he rings that doorbell, that's trespassing. He knows if he calls, that's harassment. So he will park right outside and sit outside my house. Now, hear me. That's a form of manipulation and intimidation. And when I was less mature, I would respond to that. And there would be a big fight. There might even be some broken glass, some slashed tires. I mean, I have lived, y'all, okay? But not now. I'm older and I'm more mature and I want more out of life. That sibling is 9 years older than me. So you would think since you got a 9-year head start, you should be more mature. But in my case, that's not how that's happening. So family will not always be there for you. Do not think that. Learn to stand on your own too and rely on your higher power. And the last one was number 3. Big myths about family. Nobody will treat you as good as family. Simply not true. Like I said, I am Anita of thatanitalive.com. Check out my blog. I have personal stories on my blog. I have stories of inspiration, different ways that you can build your self-confidence, build your self-esteem. One of the most popular tweets that I put out is an article that talks about 40 different ways to quiet your mind. I know because that tweet is always the most popular. All of the engagement with retweets and people sending me feedback and response on it. It doesn't matter how many times I tweeted, what time I tweeted, what day I tweeted, it always gets the highest amount of engagement, which tells me there are a lot of you out there that are suffering with trying to quiet your mind. You've got to shut off all of the external stimulation, television, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope. You really, thank you, sis. Thank you very much. And I owe so much to his grace and I owe so much to his blessings. You have no idea. There were plenty of nights that, I just was out walking the streets at night or looking for someplace safe to just lay down, running from the drama that was going on in my home. Those were teenage years. So when I think about it now, and I think about the things that happen to teenagers when they're out at night or when they're out 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning. Yes, ma'am, he kept me. There's so much that I owe to him. It just, when I talk about it, sometimes it just brings tears to my eyes because I can't believe I am still here. There was a point where I didn't think that I would live past, say, 2024. So to be here today and to have accomplished everything that I have is the miracle of survival. So thank you all very much for listening. Like I said, check out my blog at thatanitalive.com. Sign up for my list. On Sundays, I release a blog post. On Wednesdays, I release a prayer and meditation, kind of like a devotion, to help us get through the week from Sunday to Sunday. And I will talk to you guys next. Thanks. You all enjoy your evening, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.